Story 1. The convenience and accessibility promised by the internet in the 2000s and 2010s is gradually being taken away from us. I bought a season of a show on Amazon a few years ago, and they seem to have lost the rights to the original, so now I can only access the dubbed version, which I don't like. The show is now only available on a streaming service that doesn't exist in my country, so I got a virtual private network, only to find out that I can't pay for the streaming service without a credit card. So now I just ordered the box set again like I would have done 15 years ago. It's not just the streaming services. I remember when website loading times were a major topic when discussing browsers. But now every website you open requires you to spend 2 minutes closing 5 legal questions and pop up, "Do you want to register notifications?" with the close buttons hidden in different spots every time. There are ads everywhere, and even if you buy the premium version of a service, there are still more ads within the content for things you would never purchase. Websites like YouTube have removed the like and dislike features, making it difficult to identify videos you can simply skip. Search engines also seem to be less efficient than they were 8 years ago, and finding anything online has become a chore. All the new security measures introduced just steal your time and energy. You want to log into a streaming service on your computer, but you can't because it needs to be registered as a temporary device. They send you an email, but to open the email, you first need to enter a code they send to your phone, which is in the other room. So you go get it, and once you've entered the code and opened the streaming service, you've forgotten what you even wanted to watch in the first place. Don't get me started on the frequent updates everything seemingly needs every other week. Story 2. Online spaces for kids. When I was a child, we had several online places designed for children. Every children's television channel had a website with games, and there were many online games aimed at kids, like Club Penguin. Now, if you are a 10-year-old, your options are limited to either watching low-quality videos on YouTube or engaging with social media. Story 3. Quality clothing and furniture. Everything is made of medium-density fiberboard and polyester, even at the better stores. Story 4. Small independent hardware stores were once a staple in small towns, especially in the Midwest. Nearly every store claimed to be the oldest business in town, having been established around 1895. Now, most of these stores have disappeared, leaving customers with big-box hardware stores or online ordering as their only options. This situation is incredibly disheartening. Story 5. A real live person answering a business telephone. If you don't believe me, press 5 to repeat this message. Story 6. Local shops are diminishing as large retailers and the convenience of online shopping take over the market. Story 7. The old $800 car that would actually run and drive. Good luck finding anything nowadays that will run and drive for less than $3,000. Story 8. Remember the pre-smartphone era when manufacturers raced to make phones smaller and smaller? Then the iPhone was launched and everyone thought it was too big at the time, but now even that looks tiny. Now, even affordable smartphones are enormous, resembling mini tablets, and they barely fit into pockets. Story 9. Ownership involves paying a subscription. You cannot fix what you own because it is proprietary. You are unable to make outright purchases. Our ownership of items has transformed into a rental service, where companies can break or completely remove what we purchased without consent at any time, as stated in the terms of service. Story 10. In the least sarcastic sense possible, critical thinking and self-reflection are essential. It is a struggle to engage with people who cannot set aside their biases and personal beliefs to consider the larger picture or think critically about any issue. Many resort to personal insults, fallacies, and ego-driven remarks. Story 11. I live in Japan. Most of the things mentioned here are still present and well in Japan. This is because Japan has been in a time capsule since the 1980s. Story 12. Childhood. As a parent, I feel like I am fighting an uphill battle to keep our screens free. Kids need to be taught how to play and how to interact with others. They no longer go out to play with friends. Everything is online. Story 13. I have noticed a steady decline in the following areas: writing in complete sentences, spelling, grammar, punctuation. Story 14. Insects are vanishing at a rapid rate, making it one of the biggest extinction events in recent history, yet nobody is paying attention. Story 15. Physical checks as payment are becoming less common in my business. Cash was also declining, but we have observed an increase in its use. Story 16. The general decline of public services has become normalized, with public health, schools, and council-run services all worsening. Teachers, nurses, and fire services are all at breaking point, and further cuts have been announced. This is all justified by the claim that we can't afford it. However, someone is making money, and it certainly is not the working class. Story 17. There have been many grammatical shifts as texting has become prioritized. Nobody uses semicolons anymore. Story 18. Sounds of the crickets. Fun fact: crickets, fireflies, and similar creatures are signs of a healthy ecosystem and clean air. You can still find these in small towns in the Midwest, but in most big cities, the air quality is so poor that they become extinct. Story 19. Fun hobbies. Everything is a side hustle or has developed an ultra-competitive professional scene that is so intimidating it ruins the entire experience. If you're not the best, you're worthless. Good game, novice. No one wants to play with you. No, you are the one ruining it. Is this cringe? Story 20. Oh, here's a good one. Clowns. Quick backstory. I did social work for a bit and my client liked clowns a lot. We tried to find clown-related content, but it was impossible. Clowns in the traditional sense, child entertainers, not the creepy versions like Pennywise or Art, have pretty much been completely phased out of American culture. There are more clown characters in TV shows, advertisements, movies, and parks. You will hardly find clowns entertaining children's parties or charities anymore. Think about how prevalent they were before 2010. Ronald McDonald was one of the biggest mascots on the planet. He's no longer their spokesperson. Bozo was incredibly popular. Lunette had a successful TV show, and clowns were hired to perform tricks at birthday parties. The Shriners even had clown shows. After the remake of It and those viral creepy clown sightings, clowns were completely abandoned by the public. The only depiction of clowns in the media now is the killer creepy clown trope. I think about this sometimes, and it genuinely bums me out. Story 21. 1. Empathy. I find it challenging to articulate, but I feel pressured to interact socially. When someone texts me, there's an expectation to respond immediately, and I feel obligated to be available whenever my phone notifies me. In the past, if you missed a call, you would simply return it when you were able. I hope that makes sense. I've been awake for too long this morning. Story 22. Everything has become planned obsolescence. Cars, appliances, electronics, tools, and materials are no longer built to last. The price wars have diminished quality as an option. Story 23. People reading actual books in parks and on public transport is a joy to see. I always smile and take a look at what they are reading, and I feel excited if it's something I've read. I am not saying people are illiterate. I am just noticing the shift from physical books to devices and audiobooks. As an Australian, squiz means look. Story 24. The public good. For example, the bandwidth that analog television broadcasts occupied was once a public good. The public owned that bandwidth. Digital broadcast bandwidth uses significantly less space. After the transition to digital, the remaining analog bandwidth was sold to mobile phone providers. You now pay for access to bandwidth that you once owned. Story 25. Ownership has changed. We used to own physical CDs and DVDs, but now everything operates on a subscription model. Want to use a feature in your car? Subscription. Want to watch movies? Subscription. Music? Subscription. Even renting is essentially another form of subscription. If I purchase this car, I shouldn't have to subscribe to anything to access all the features it offers. Story 26. The concept of decades. Hear me out. This is a whole rant of mine. Before the turn of the century, we talked about the passing of time in terms of decades. We had a shared cultural understanding of what the 1970s looked and felt like, and we all were nostalgic for the same things when we talked about 1980s music or that 1990s paper cup. As you read these things, the cultural meanings flash in your head, probably even if you weren't alive then. Then the year 2000 happened, and we didn't know what to call that decade. Some people tried the aughts, but that didn't stick. In 2010, some people tried the teens, but it wasn't quite the teens yet, still 10, 11, 12. By 2020, we were totally out of practice with decades, plus we had other things on our minds. Since then, we've completely abandoned the idea of decades. The dominant model for people experiencing time together these days is generations. We're now obsessed with generations the way we were with decades back then. This is a problem. First of all, decades were a common, shared experience. We all passed through those experiences together. We know what 1980s fashion looks like, even if the 1980s predate you. Whereas generations are fundamentally divisive. Now we have conflicts between Generation Z and baby boomers as just one example. Here's another. Back in the early 1990s, when someone said something culturally obsolete or fumbled with the early internet, we'd say, "Welcome to the 1990s." It was a fairly common expression for anyone not from that time. Today, the term for the same sentiment is, "Okay, boomer." Actually, it's nearly the same expression. Welcome to the 1990s was an invitation to join us, to get with the times, whereas OK Boomer dismisses the other person and their cohort as hopelessly out of touch. Again, one is inclusive, the other divisive. It used to be that we'd hit a new decade, and it would feel new. It would feel like we were in the future, as if we had a chance to shed the previous decade and invent a new. This is why 1970s and 1980s clothes were so different. These days, my child points and laughs at millennial fashion, which I understand means what people were wearing in 2004. The thing is, it's so subtly different from what people wear right now compared to the differences between 1970s and 1980s styles. Music from 2005 is a lot like music from 2015, which is a lot like music from 2025. At least compared to the vast differences between, say, 1960s and 1970s music. We no longer have this 10-year cadence of reinvention, and so cultural change has become a slow, subtle smear over the last 25 years. I think this is why time feels so weird lately, both hardly moving at all and also racing past. Decades gave us a framework for parsing time in chunks, for understanding it both as it passed and in retrospect. Whereas Generation X, like me, feels like a thing frozen in amber while time rushes by around it. So I'm trying to make the 2020s happen. Join me. We need decades back. Welcome to the 2020s. Story 27. Reading material in waiting rooms often leads people to look at their phones or other devices, even if they are trying to reduce screen time. I used to enjoy the variety of magazines on topics that I wouldn't have at home. Story 28. The fun and whimsical nature of restaurants like McDonald's is replaced by the sleek and dull modern look. Story 29. The ability to repair items and obtain parts for repairs is diminishing. Very few companies sell replacement parts for technology or mechanical devices. Cars are the exception due to a law passed in Massachusetts. Everything has become proprietary, and devices are increasingly programmed to reject replacement parts unless they are approved by the manufacturer, even if these parts are original equipment manufacturer components. The situation becomes more concerning the further you investigate. Story 30. Clothes made from natural fibers are becoming rare. It is now all polyester. Even the luxury brands are using it. We are all just covered in synthetic material. Story 31. The ability to hold a conversation with people who have a different point of view is valuable. It seems that today, many people desire validation for their opinions. While feeling validated is nice, I believe I truly improve when I must support my stance effectively. Only when I can substantiate my ideas do I feel I genuinely understand what I'm discussing. If I'm wrong, I either learn something new or, at the very least, gain a better understanding of the topic at hand. Story 32. Definitely, diversity of thought and the ability to listen are important. Critical thinking skills are essential. Many people have mentioned civility, but I wonder how much of this relates to the if it bleeds, it leads aspect of the internet and the 24-hour news cycle. I haven't seen any evidence of in-person civility decreasing, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, so I am quite sensitive to that issue. The consequence-free aspect of internet anonymity has created significant problems. People have always harbored negative thoughts, but that doesn't necessarily mean they act on them. We tend to perceive everyone's online attitudes as a reflection of their real-life behavior, but that isn't accurate. We were not evolved to handle knowing what is happening with everyone everywhere at all times. The algorithms on social media have been a complete disaster for people's mental health, including my own. I deleted all of my social media last year and avoid the news and things I cannot control. I set YouTube to not track my history, so it isn't bombarding me with clickbait every time I open it. Now, aside from the right-hand column when I open a video, which I try to ignore, I only see things I search for, mostly music and gear demonstrations. I subscribe to creators I like to at least offer them some support. Story 33. Quality furniture. Everything is particle board flat pack IKEA furniture, and entire communities that used to produce decent furniture have been going out of business. Story 34. People smoking cigarettes is rarely seen or smelled anymore, although it seems like I smell marijuana smoke everywhere now, which is arguably just as bad. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.